10-mile radius of the nuclear plant in Shippingport. It goes into West Virginia and parts of Ohio and parts of Beaver County up to the Ohio River. The plans are in place. Every year, there's a drill that has to be completed under the federal law. It isn't that we can't expand upon that. And I think that might be the political solution, would be to put political pressure on the governor and the federal government to go ahead and expand out that area. Now, the town I live in, South Heights, which is on the Allegheny County border, we're to go to evacuate to the South Hills. And Alcoa and all these other places have specific places to go, to shelter in place. And there's buses available, the police, the fire department, everybody trains to do that. It isn't like you have to reinvent the wheel, you can just expand on that. I think that's a great idea.
That's wonderful, yeah.
I think a little bit of a problem there too, is that there is going to where to go. I'd rather look at the clouds, which way they're going, and go the opposite.
Exactly.
If they told me to go straight into the clouds, no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is knowing what tools you have available to make those decisions for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Where to go for that information.
Yeah.
We didn't have that in these houses, you never know where to go for information.
Yeah, and that's huge, that's what we need to know.
It used to be in the yellow pages.
Yeah.
When we used to get a phone book, it used to be right in the front. Nobody gets a phone book anymore.
I have a couple people that are waiting patiently online to ask some questions who couldn't make it tonight. First up is Dylan White. She asks, I would like to know how Shell is going to be monitored. What independent groups have been selected to conduct surveys?
Does anyone have an answer for that?
That'll be all you. We're waiting.
Yeah, I mean, the nonprofits really, and community groups really have to step in to fill that void. So
And
certainly.
politicians, you need to contact your politicians, Governor Shapiro, Senator Casey, Senator Fetterman, and Congressman DeLucio. Contact them.
We need to let them know our concerns, absolutely.
And I think too, we have the DEP in place, and that is who should be doing a little bit of a better job keeping their eye on Shell. Maybe not a little bit of a better job, a much better job. And something our group BC MAC has put pressure on them is to, do surprise visits, do visits overnight, make sure they have the right equipment when they get there to do the proper monitoring. And one of the things that we've noticed is that there are a lot of emissions at night. And so Dr. Lau had asked the DEP to start conducting more visits at night. And the DEP said they have to get approved overtime to do that.
We should do a march down the middle of Beaver. Out of the middle of Beaver, all of us would sign and get the news there and put out the word that Shell will not participate in this.
Yeah.
Well, and in fact, something like that is being planned, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely will let everyone know. But keep November 15th open if possible.
And in the meantime, a lot of community groups in this room who are stepping up when it comes to monitoring. So BCMAC has the project Eyes on Shell. We have a new hotline phone number, which we have some brochures, so on the way out, make sure you grab that. So you can actually report to us. And we, of course, still encourage calling the Shell Community Hotline and the DEP. But what we can do is we have boots on the ground and get out there and get these air tests right away, or check the cameras, check, Dr. Lau is very, very great at checking the PAMs and CAMs data that Shell provides. So we do everything we can do as community groups. We very much focus in on air, and then there are groups like Food and Water Watch and Free Rivers Waterkeeper who do the water monitoring. So if the DEP and if the local government isn't going to do it as community members and community groups, we're going to do our best, but we need allies. So to hold Shell accountable, we need everyone to be involved in that process, and that started with you guys showing up today. So thank you.
One more online question before we go back to live. To whom can people report health systems if they feel like they're experiencing them from the plant or just concerns in general?
That's a great question. I will say we do not have a county health department, which makes this incredibly challenging. There is the PA Department of Health, which I have, as someone from Beaver County affected by the train derailment, I've had to call and give them reports, but at the end of the day, you're just giving that information. You don't necessarily get any treatment or referrals. I really hope that BCMAC can start bringing in some more health groups to do monitoring, and then towards the end of tonight, we are going to have University of Pittsburgh talk a little bit more about their asthma study that they're doing. So there is a space to do that if you are diagnosed with asthma, and we hope that, you know, through all of our community connections, we can expand upon that. But for now, I highly encourage people to reach out to BCMAC because we can start logging some of that data to continue putting pressure on local officials. Dr. Left.
Yeah, well, back to the emergency plan, remind them about, November 14th, the LABC meeting.
Yes, so one of the most important things we can do is show up at meetings. So BCMAC often goes to commissioners meetings and also LEPC, which is our local emergency planning management committee. And it'll be November 14th at
on 14th Street in Amherst, at the emergency headquarters.
911 center. And what time is that, Dr. Loudon? Remember?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. We will let everyone know after, but we really want to have a big presence there this time around, especially since November 14th is the day before Shell's 1-year anniversary of operations, which is November 15th. So we'd love if some people in this room can show up with us, and we can try to convince them to be doing this. So as community groups, we can be at home watching the Steelers game instead.
Okay, well, I think we'll continue at this point, but we'll have there'll be more opportunities for questions and discussion. So, is it dangerous to live near a petrochemical facility? Well, yes, fossil fuels and petrochemicals can be highly flammable, explosive, and toxic. Now, there's a couple examples I'll bring up. One involves Shell. So I want to mention that because it is Shell. And this past May, at their Deer Park, Houston area petrochemical plant, they had a chemical fire that burned for 3 days and released toxic pollution into the community. Another example of a dangerous petrochemical situation happened near Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that was on August 6th. The Accor United Poly Systems had a fire. It burned hundreds of tons of plastic, and I mention it because people didn't know about it. They didn't know that this was something that they needed to shelter from and not be outside breathing in the fumes. And the reason was because even though Albuquerque had an emergency alert system, it was something you had to sign up for, and people just didn't know about it. So again, this reinforces how important it is for there to be a coordinated effort from our leaders in the county to at least let everyone know, you know, to sign up for the alert system, or even to use an alert system that would just simply go out to everybody that you didn't have to sign up for.
Can you post that on your site, your phone number?
For Beaver County?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
I've been looking for it, haven't found it yet.
Okay, yeah, we'll make a note now.
Okay, thank you.
department. So how are they doing? You know, they said they would be state of the art. And these are the amounts of health harming pollutants. Many of them are health harming, some it's unknown, but many of them are really health harming, that are estimated, they estimated that they would be putting out. And they've been going above and beyond these projections. They've actually been violating these particular chemicals. And we'll take a look at that. Part of the reason that they've been violating is because of all the malfunctions. They've been having usually multiple malfunctions per month. And I just will mention that the picture here you see is from Independence that I took. And it shows you the sky glowing from one of their flaring events where they were emitting chemicals because they were not fully combusting the chemicals they were burning from their flares. So what are these violations? Well, they've exceeded their 12-month rolling allowance of volatile organic compounds. They've been doing that since October. And VOCs can cause cancer. Some of them can be cancer causing. The last report on them from Shell gives the amount of 989 tons of VOCs, and that was through August. So they've continued to emit high amounts since then. And this number easily could make them the highest emitter of VOCs in our state.
Money is one thing, but they should shut them down when they do that. Have them comply to the law. Tighten their good fittings and valves, fix the pollution problem at the source, and then allow them to open up again once they've complied.
Yeah, and they had one shutdown, but they're continuing to have issues, so it does raise the question of whether another one is needed. The nitrogen oxides, you can see that they have been going beyond their allowance for those since December. And nitrogen oxides, when they're combined with the VOCs, form smog. So smog is another issue, another big health issue. It can aggravate asthma. It contributes also to heart disease. And then you see HAPs there, so hazardous air pollutants. They've gone over their limit for them since December. And these are chemicals that are known to cause cancer or other serious health impacts. Now, there's also been issues with 1,3-butadiene. That is an example of a HAP, hazardous air pollutant, also VOC. The Department of Health and Human Services, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, EPA, have all determined that 1,3-butadiene is a human carcinogen. And Shell has released over 10,000 pounds of this chemical so far this year.
Dr. Lau, I think you just ran the numbers. Is it over 10,000 now?
Yep, 20,000.
Over 20,000.
Okay, so that's gone on up a bit.
Makes us the worst in the state, doesn't it?
Why aren't they getting fined here?
I don't know what other plans. But it's finally unusual.
And the PADEP is listening to this, Zoom.
I don't know about that. I hope, but I don't think so.
There may not be laws on the books because this is a new complex, a new facility. New laws need written to protect the environment and the people. Because they aren't on the laws doesn't mean they can't be written.
Well, a lot of these, are laws, and Shell is violating their permits, and they are still allowed to be open.
Yes.
So the law, I agree, there's probably some new laws that need to be passed, but what's in place, they are already violating that. So there needs to be a new level of accountability, and, the rest of the community needs to, advocate for that.
Yes.
You can violate the law if you have enough money.
The way the law is
But
written,
they shut them down.
but they violate it, you get a fine.
Yeah, but they can afford that. They can't afford to be shut down
And-
for long periods of time.
And
That's what
last
I
time
proposed.
I brought up to the DEP about the 1,3-butadiene, an email written back to me said that the DEP is monitoring all emissions.
So they're aware of it. Yeah,
they were actually, correct, they were collecting some of the 1,3-butadiene in one of those black tanker cars, and one of the operators there noticed that it was leaking. And so what they did is they pushed the tank car to a sort of a remote area of the train yard, and they did a controlled release. So they let it bleed off for 4 hours. Pardon? Into the ground? No, it's a gas, so it went up there.
But why couldn't they siphon it into a tanker truck?
They didn't have that capability. Now, when you read their, well, they weren't expecting the tanker cars to have a leak, I don't know. But when you read the malfunction report, the Shell always has to give what they call a root cause analysis, and then they have to give a way they're gonna mitigate that. And in that report, what they're gonna do now is install a pipeline from their tanking station to one of their flares. So if they have this happen again, they'll be able to vent the leaking tank car directly to one of their flares. So that's how we're gonna, remedy this.
So we have more sky again.
Yes.
I haven't seen a beautiful sunrise in years, probably all year long, I haven't seen a beautiful sunrise. The sky is horrible in the valley.
As I mentioned about the flaring, that's, you get the visible emission violation days when you can see that black soot, that black smoke coming off of the flaring. And then there's the benzene. So they're generating benzene in their waste in amounts that do exceed their permit. They had said that they would be emitting less than 11 tons per year, which is 10 megagrams. But they have disclosed to the DEP that they actually are going to be generating approximately 60 megagrams per year. So about 6 times as much as they first said. And this is going into their wastewater. Now there's also been problems with benzene going into the air. In April, there was a malfunction, and at one point there were 219 pounds in just one day of benzene that was released into the air. During this 2-week period, Shell's Pennsylvania monitoring system recorded average benzene readings that reached up to 12 times the EPA action limit for this known carcinogen, benzene. That period ended April 13th. And we know that from April 11th to 14th, people were reporting being affected by this malfunction and this release of chemicals. People were reporting coughing and headaches and nausea. People were concerned about letting their kids play outside. One of the concerned parents attended the meeting that I told you about in June. Some of us were at, and she, during the benzene release, had called Commissioner Manning to ask him if it was safe for her child to go outside, go to school, because there was no information for anybody during this time. Shell was not communicating what was happening. So this young woman called the commissioner, contacted the commissioner, and he told her that he had not been told about any benzene in the air. They'd done some air monitoring and not found any. So he went ahead and told her that it was safe, there was no benzene. So she attended the meeting in June and asked him why he told her that when that was not actually true, you know. And so this just reiterates the need for better communication when things like this happen at the Shell plant. So we can pause here for a moment. You can maybe talk about what you think about the commissioners canceling this meeting. That, you know, this woman asked for this town hall meeting and was told that yes, we're gonna do it. And then the commissioners did go ahead and cancel the meeting after all of this, so.
I went on their website on Facebook and made a comment about it.
Thank you for
I
doing
go
that.
everywhere there, I make comments all over. I call them all the time.
Me too, or maybe not the commissioners, right?
And I comment on the night, you know, what's going on, and I can't even see all the noise you're making, and you know. And I'm not nice when I call.
Yeah, the noise is another issue too, and that impacts your health and well-being when you have to deal with all that. And regarding the benzene, I should mention that, you know, some of the issues with benzene, besides it being cancer causing, is that it can affect your blood cell counts, cause anemia, and weaken your immune system. It's also known to cause leukemia. So it's a
Commissioner
bad thing.
Manning is in the audience, he had his hand up.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize you were here. Thank you for being here.
I would just say 2 things. One, when Shelley called me, I told her the truth. We had no readings if there was any benzene. I told her the truth that I knew at that time. In retrospect, there was benzene earlier that was released that wasn't revealed to me until after I knew what I was told was what. Secondly, and he'll hear this, we did not back out of that town hall meeting. We were asked specifically to facilitate Shell, Potter Township, and emergency management in a meeting. We were told we wouldn't be part of it, other than facilitate a date to have those meetings. We said we would do that. Shell backed out, Potter Township backed out, and it was just us. How can you have a Shell town hall meeting without Shell and Potter Township at the table? So that's why the meeting didn't happen. It isn't because the commissioners backed out of our commitment. I'm still committed to a town hall.
Let's
But
do
how
it.
can I have a town hall?
There it is. Committed to it. When are we gonna have it?
How can you have a Shell town hall without Shell?
I understand the
And
concern there,
we
but
told you at the time, Hillary, that I don't have subpoena power. I don't even have control over a municipality. The 53 municipalities in Beaver County are independently run with their own zoning.
They have their own
only
building
ask.
right here on campus.
I asked, and
But
they backed out, so.
I think there's still value in you guys holding that space for community members to come, because look around the room, these are Beaver County residents, they have
Well, I know,
questions.
but I talk to quite a few people all the time.
And a lot of good ideas, and we can work together with your leadership. And even without Shell being there, we can then hopefully communicate with Shell. You know, we can get started. We can have this town hall meeting, get this process started.
Yeah, but I hear you, and I'm still willing to do those things. And I've talked to Daniel and different people about this before. But we are the third tier of any response at the county level. It's Shell, Potter, and then us. So it's not going to be the meaningful, in-depth kind of conversation that will get you the answers that you want, that we all want. I mean, I'm going
If
on.
you're with us, I feel like Shell and Potter Township are gonna feel that pressure. If you stand alongside the community members and do that, I think it says something.
Maybe.
I agree.
If I can ask about that.
Amy?
I think, you know, going through all the stuff that we're going through in East Palestine, I will tell you this, to have your leadership, no matter what level it is, show that they care, and show that they're invested in this, it's worth the time for a meeting. And I will tell you, the other thing that we found is when you invite these people to the table and they don't show up, leave that seat for them.
Put their name.
You know, if Shell doesn't show up, you put Shell representative and you leave that seat empty, but having the conversation really makes your constituents feel supported, feel heard. Like dealing with our city government right now, completely ignoring us, not coming to the table, you know, to have meetings and things of that nature. Like, I just tell you from a mental standpoint, from a support of your community, just having that conversation is invaluable to people's mental health.
I appreciate that, and I think some of you know, I know people in Darlington know that I spend an enormous amount of time in Darlington. I spend an enormous amount of time talking about the Southern. They created some movement, but they still haven't done near as much as I would like to see there, and we're still pressing for it, and we still have conversations all the time with Shell about their issues, but there's only so much that we can do to influence a permitted business to operate, whether it's a railroad, whether it's Shell.
I live in Rochester, and my southwest side is Shell. And there were plumes of red smoke coming out of there. I called the hotline of the PADEP. They didn't have a contact number, nor did they have a telephone number. 6 days later, the PADEP called me. Red pluming smoke went on for over an hour. But nobody cares. Who do you call? What do you do in an emergency? They don't have numbers for, a contact number for Shell.
I live right next to the plant, and there's no emergency,
nearby, we've got, our skies, we have the, oh God, it rains filth.
And they won't come, so.
We have to
I-
do something.
I wanna take a moment
And our
to,
leaders need to do it.
You know, recognize that Commissioner Manning came out tonight, so thank you for that. But
Sitting here and listening and learning, that's all.
I wanna know, you said that you still would do a town hall. Well, are you open to making a public comment saying that you will hold a space for community members to share their concerns and talk about emergency response?
In the rest format, yeah, I'm still willing to do that.
And what would that format
If
be?
it's just gonna be a diatribe on things that I can't control and can't handle, I can go home and get that for my kids.
No.
But sometimes there's value listening.
You need to know what
I think that's what the
you're
community
concerned
wants.
I think anybody in this room should know that I'm always willing to listen and learn.
about. So that's when you write things down and you take it higher. Who are you saying would be in the room that you could go home from and not listen to? You should listen to your constituents.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, and we thank you for that, and hopefully we can continue that conversation. We'll continue on, and, you know, we'll let Commissioner Manning listen, but I do want to thank him for his presence tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so to continue on with this presentation, here's an example of a flaring event we've mentioned a few times. This was actually on 13th of February, which was a week after the controlled burn in East Palestine. So at this time, there were people here who had come here to get away from those dangerous chemicals, and then they're being exposed to this. During this flaring event, there was also a mixture of water and glycol that was coming out of the flare. So that was a malfunction on top of a malfunction. And ethylene glycol is toxic. Exposure can cause damage to the nervous system, skin, kidneys, and respiratory system. And that was you know, Shell workers were being exposed to that directly. There was another flare incident I'll mention, again, just showing the malfunctions, the multiple malfunctions and the extent of them. The ground flare in March, many of you may be aware that there was a hot spot that they were having to spray down to keep it under control for days. Yeah.
It was melting the water core, or
The wall around where the flames come out.
yeah.
So what is flaring? Again, it's burning off chemicals. The goal is to burn off those chemicals before they get into the air. When you see the black smoke though, you know there's been a malfunction and they're not being fully combusted and people are getting exposed to them. And regardless of if it's working as intended, it is still, the flaring is still emitting carbon dioxide into the air. And the particulate matter that comes from the burning, particulate matter 2.5 is a real health concern. It contributes to heart attacks and respiratory disease. And these are very small particles. You wouldn't be able to really see them, yeah. They're smaller than the diameter of a strand of hair, but the flaring exposes us to that as well.
There's reports now that can also contribute to blindness if you're not potentially.
Yeah, and it causes general inflammation in your body reacting to the particles being breathed in and into your lungs and then circulating throughout your body and your blood. Can cause a whole other host of health issues. So we know petrochemicals affect our health. On the left side of this slide is some information that came out of the recent PIT study, and this was having to do with fracking. So this is regarding the petrochemical build out around us. That study linked the proximity to living near fracking with asthma and childhood lymphoma, and also low birth weight. On the right side is part of a fact sheet that we have here if anyone would like a copy of it. And it talks about a few different studies of how petrochemicals, specifically from ethane cracker plants, affect our health. There was one mentioned about those living within 3 miles of petrochemical facilities having a 30% higher leukemia risk than those in communities with no petrochemical facilities. And another study found elevated leukemia incidence in children living near petrochemicals, cracker plants. And living closer to these facilities is also linked with poor birth outcomes, such as the low birth weight, preterm birth, and birth defects. And of course, more asthma and respiratory illness, and also kidney disease for people living near these facilities as well. Okay, so now is a chance for a little more discussion amongst ourselves. Maybe you want to ask folks around you, you know, what brought them here, what were they concerned about before this meeting, and what are they concerned about now? What additional concerns might they have? So we'll take a little time to talk.
And we can talk amongst each other. If people want to come up, we can do that as well. But let's take let's say 5 to 10 minutes to just talk with each other in the audience.